Hi everybody, thank you for inviting me along today. My name is Ditchfield. I'm the diversity lead nurse for NHS Blood and Transplant, and I've been a specialist nurse for organ donation for about 8 years now. I was first based at the Manchester Royal Infirmary and then moved to Blackburn to work there, and for 3 years I've been the diversity lead nurse for NHS. So I've just put a few facts here about why it's so important to talk about organ donation. 31% of the people waiting for transplants come from Black and Asian communities. There's around about 6,000 people actively waiting for transplants in the UK, and 3 people are dying each day waiting for transplants. 35% of the kidney transplant waiting list are people from Black and Asian minority background. And last year, 8% of the deceased donors came from Black and Asian donors. We had around 1,600 deceased donors, that was one of our records last year, and 121 of them from Black and Asian minority patients. So patients from Black and Asian communities wait longer for transplants, and that's due to the lack of suitable organs. So when we're doing organ transplant, as you know, that we do the matching, the tissue typing, the blood groups, and you're better matched with someone from the same ethnic background as yourself. So people tend to wait longer because there's not as many deceased organs available for transplant. And although there's around 500,000 people that die in the UK each year in a circumstance, in the UK, only 1 in 100 die in a situation where they can actually become organ donors. So every donor to us is precious. And for us as specialist nurses, it's really important that we make sure that every single family is offered the choice of organ donation if that's what they want. It's part of end-of-life care, and it's part of the decision-making at end-of-life for families, and obviously the patients might have already made that decision. And due to these figures, you can see, there's massive inequalities, and we need to help to reduce this. We want everybody to be able to have a transplant if they need one, and we want to make sure that every family has this choice of organ donation because it's such a special and unique thing. So us as specialist nurses, as a team, there's about 270 of us nationally. We work regionally, so we've got 12 regional teams. We're all senior nurses when we come into the role, so we've all been working on critical care or in the accident and emergency department for a number of years, and we come into the organ donation world and we're like starting again as students. And we train up, we get really good training, we get 6 months training programme, and then we're placed into an acute hospital on the intensive care unit or maybe the A&E department, and we work there to identify any potential donors. We're trained and we've got specialist skills and knowledge. We know the whole process of organ donation, and we have specialist communication training. So we work really intensively with our training team to develop our communication skills and make sure that we're able to speak to these families, because as you can imagine, it's really awful time for them. And we've got to make sure that we working with the staff. It's a team effort. It's not just us, but we need to make sure that we're training how we're working with all the different multidisciplinary teams. All families are spoken to if they're in a position to donate a loved one's organs. So it doesn't matter if they're on the organ donor register or not. Every family gets offered that choice. It just means that conversation might be a little bit different in the way that we speak to them and the words that we use if they're on the organ donor register, but all families are offered that choice. And as specialist nurses, we assess them at the time of when it's end of life. We assess if they're suitable for donation, and then if they are, then we'll speak to the family. We've got specialist nurses organ donation, SNODs we call us, very attractive name, but we're all called SNODs. And we also have a clinical lead for organ donation, so they're the CLODs. And they're the consultants who work on the intensive care. So the SNODs and the CLODs work together to build a brilliant relationship and make sure that all families and all staff are offered that, and all staff know how to refer. So we educate their staff about organ donation on a daily basis to make sure that we're not missing any patient. We're giving everybody that opportunity. Like I said, there's only around 1% of people who die in a circumstance where they can donate organs, so they're in a unique position. We need to make sure that everybody's given that opportunity. To donate organs, I'm sure you all know, you've got to be on a critical care unit or an emergency department on a life support machine. So that's why there's only a very, very small pool of people. We only get involved as specialist nurses after the decision has been made that treatment is futile and we're going to stop the treatment, withdraw that treatment. Only at that point we then get involved. So we're not employed by the trust, we're employed by NHS Blood and Transplant. We're just working with that trust to support them in an area that they don't know a lot about and we do know a lot about. So I said that. So like I said, we're all specialist nurses and we all work on a 9 to 5 sort of basis on the trust, in the trust that we're placed into, but we also do an on-call element where we work 21 hours on call to support these families and to facilitate organ donation. And we usually do that once or twice a week. I've got my colleague here, Laurence, today, and she's on call till 9 o'clock tomorrow morning now. So if we get a potential patient who's going to be a donor, she'll have to leave and go off and support that family and offer donation to them. And if they say yeah, then we support them through that. We do all the tissue typing, the background reading for medical history, making sure that the transplants are safe. We speak to GPs, I'm sure there's quite a few of you here, so you might have had phone calls from us in the past. We make sure we get a match, we arrange the national retrievals, the teams to come. We'll go to theatre with the patient, we'll look after the patient after death and make sure that the family get what they want after death. So there's quite a lot to our role, we've sort of got 2 hats really. So obviously there's changes coming and there's change in law, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of publicity around this as it's been building up, and it got royal assent last year, but it's not going to play just yet, and we don't know exactly when spring it says, so when spring is we never know until the last minute. But obviously there's a lot of other things been going on, as you all know, from 11 o'clock last night. So we're just sort of waiting with bated breath really to see what date they're going to give us from the government. But the law is going to be Max and Kira's law, as I'm sure you've all heard. And Max was a little gentleman who received a heart transplant from Kira, who was the amazing young girl whose family decided after she was tragically killed in a road traffic accident that they would donate her organs. So it was initially going to be called Max's law, but Max really felt that we should recognise Kira, she's the amazing person that gave him life, which is what happened, and the government decided, yeah, that's really what we should do. So now we've changed it to Max and Kira's law, which is amazing. So it's deemed Consent Act 2019, and it applies to adults living in England and who die in England. And it won't apply to anybody who's under the age of 18, who lacks mental capacity to understand what's happened with the change in law and to take necessary action. It doesn't apply to people who are not ordinary residents in England for the last 12 months immediately before the death, and it doesn't apply to people who are visiting on a short-term basis. There's a big campaign, I'm saying a big campaign, but I've not really seen too much about it, I don't know if you guys have, but there's advert, I think there's another advert due to go out today, Pass It On, and there's starting more radio and that sort of things coming around, but there's a TV advert tonight, apparently, and that's the campaign, and just about passing it on and making a decision, talking about what people would want if they were ever in that situation, which, as we know, we've seen, it's highly unlikely that you're in that situation. You're more likely that you need a transplant than you are to be an organ donor. But it's just trying to get society to talk about it. Because obviously we don't like talking about death and dying, but we need to do. So hopefully people will make a decision, and an informed decision. That's what we want people to make, an informed decision. So we know that faith and beliefs play a massive part in decision making at the end of life, and so last year we introduced the Faith and Beliefs Declaration onto the NHS Organ Donor Register, and we did this after speaking to lots of different faith bodies, and they wanted to have some reassurance that faith was taken seriously when organ donation took place. And it does, I can assure you, as specialist nurses, it's something that we've always done anyway in practice. We always make sure that families' needs, expectations, faith, beliefs, everything is considered an important part of end-of-life care as well. But now on the Organ Donor Register, if you sign on to that, you can put that faith is an important part and you want that to be taken into consideration, and people may be brought in faith leaders to make sure that organ donation can go ahead in line with the faith beliefs. So all specialist requesters and specialist nurses acknowledge this and they've been trained on this, but like I said, it doesn't really change our practice because that's what we did anyway, and it's just giving some reassurance. We've done lots of research, as you can imagine, around this because faith is something that a lot of people say that donation can't go ahead because of faith. So we've done lots of talking to lots of faith leaders, and the major faiths and religions support organ donation. But obviously we understand that there's different schools of thought for certain religion and different people's views. So there's lots of common myths and misconceptions. We know this as well, and I think there's been lots of bad messaging going around on WhatsApp and things, and lots of the time it's people not knowing exactly what the process is, what the right messaging is, and then common myths and misconceptions that we come across on a daily basis. So I just put a few on here just to go through what we usually get asked about. So anybody can become an organ donor after death. Well, I've already said that. No, they can't. You've got to die in that situation where you're on a life support machine to be able to become an organ donor. If you want to become a donor, doctors won't do their best to try and save you. That's really common, especially in some communities. Feel there's a lot of mistrust within the NHS, and again, that's not true. We're a separate body to the trust that we work with. We're employed by NHS London Transplant, like I said, and we're only invited into conversations after that decision's been made and before. And as specialist nurses, we won't go into them conversations until it's documented and we've seen that that doctor has made that decision. There's two types of donors. I don't know if you know this already, but the donors who might have had a brain injury and become brainstem dead, and then the donors who treatment is futile and they're going to stop that treatment, which means that they will die. So there's two types. So it's donation after brainstem death and donation after circulatory death. And only after the decision's been made to brainstem death test or to stop the treatment will we then become involved. You need to be registered on the NHS donor register to become a donor, and again, that's not true, and that's going to change anyway. So when the law comes into play, it'll be that everybody will be assumed to be an organ donor, and if that's not something that you want, then people need to opt off. But if that's something that you feel really passionate about, you can opt in and say, yes, I really, really do want to do that. But if you do nothing, then it's just been taken, that the decision has been made that you have decided that you want to be a donor. It's not really going to change a lot to our practice as specialist nurses, because we're still going to speak to families. Families are a major part of our the organ donation process and a major part of supporting that patient through organ donation. Without the families, we don't know that it's going to be a safe transplant. We need to have lots of information about the past medical history. We need to work with that family and respect their wishes. So as specialist nurses, we always speak to the family, even if they're on the register, we'll speak to them and say, did you know they were on the organ donor register, and we'll work with them. And some families just say, well, they might have been, but we don't want organ donation.
What would you do in that situation?
We usually try and say, why don't you want to respect your loved one's wishes? And then we'd go through, it might be like myths and misconceptions that they've got in their head around what donation is. You know, we get a lot of people, well, you just take their organs out and da. So we talk through why it is that we don't want them to be an organ donor, and we try and have conversations, make sure we've got all the right information and we've got an informed decision. And then if they still say no, then we respect that. And that's not going to change with the law. It's not going to be that everybody is a donor, and if the family say no, then it's tough. It's not going to change. We're still going to have them conversations. We're still going to make sure they've got the right information. And if the family still say no, then we respect that, because family play a vital part in that process, which I've already said. So that's an important point to make, really. So organ donation will delay the funeral. So no, it doesn't delay the funeral, and we have lots of families who want quick burial. So we make sure that we've got all the information around that, and we liaise with maybe the burial societies, and we get the death certificate ready so that as soon as the operation's finished, then the body can be taken, depending on what that family want. Families always honour a relative's decision to donate. Again, no, they don't, and I've had lots of instances where I've spoke to families with the loved ones on the organ donor register, and they don't want to honour the donation, the decision, and like I said, we talk through why that is. And if you don't donate, you can't have an open casket funeral. So families can see the loved one after donation. It's an operation. It's like any other operation. It's very dignified, and the surgeons who carry out that operation, who you're going to be hearing from today, are very respectful. They know that this is a gift of life, and it's going to save one of their patients on the transplant waiting list. So it's an amazing thing, and they're very respectful with that. We always tend to try and do a minute silence before the operation starts if we can, to just honour what that person is doing for everyone. And we take that time to respect what they're doing, because ultimately they're going to go on and save another person's life, which is absolutely amazing. And you know, nothing can really believe how much effect that can have, not just on that patient who needs that transplant, but their whole family and society as a whole. So it's an amazing thing. It's an operation, like I said, it's dressed and treated exactly the same as if the patient was alive. And then after the patient is washed in the theatre, if that's what the family want, or the family can wash the patient, whatever that family wants, then we'll try and make sure that we support them in whatever way we can. So that's just a brief overview. Is there any questions about anything, about the law or anything like that? Thank you very much. Thank you.